it's interesting because obviously I suppose I went into proper menopause in that my period stopped last year. And even now recently I've been having the thing where, you know, you pick up your phone and you think, why did I pick up the phone? And things like that. And that happens, and I kind of go with it and think, oh, I must be tired, I must be this, I must be, and then it's the last thing that comes to my mind that I think, oh, it's a symptom of menopause. And that is due to lack of understanding of exactly
what's happening.
Is happening, what to expect, you know, like we said before, the hot flashes. Yes, I understand the hot flashes, the irritability, the mood swings and things like that, which I don't think that I have experienced yet. And luckily I haven't had that bit happen. But the hot flashes have come with a vengeance. But beyond that, it's very difficult to know what to expect. And so I see that it is very important for us to talk about it. That's the other thing, is that women didn't talk about it. I didn't hear my mum sitting around with her sisters and her friends and talking about their menopause. So I had no idea about what to expect. My mum didn't seem to experience very huge symptoms. I don't know whether she went on HRT or whatever, but I had no idea of what to expect. I remember getting really hot and thinking that I had the flu, and it was actually the beginning of the flashes, you know. God,
I know, it's nuts.
Crazy.
It is. I mean, the thing that's interesting is that actually progesterone in women starts lowering at the age of 28. Estrogen starts lowering at the age of 35, and from 35 roughly, and certainly in the early 40s, even tiny, your body is making changes towards perimenopause after 35, definitely, without you even realizing.
Yes, yeah.
And so the 10 years of perimenopause, and then menopause is actually the day you have not had a period for one whole year until the day you die. Now,
so
nowadays,
you just stay in menopause.
That's menopause, and that's usually now in our modern world, obviously, sadly not in the rest of the world, but in the modern advanced democracies, that's 35 years women have got to contribute. I mean, that's incredible. You know, that's why your work's so important. I hope my work is contributing to how to stay well and how to contribute and be productive with these 35 years. There's no other generation that's had 35 years. You know, we weren't designed to stay alive that long. You know, we would have probably got eaten by a big hairy predator or something else.
Yes,
you know?
Right.
But health gains, it's only a gain if we're well. And with the thing that I've learned is that the ravages of our society are actually stress now. Poor food production and stress, if you have to, you know, say the two things. And so women have to get a grip of those two elements of their lives to actually really be well enough to actually contribute and provide that wisdom and that special gift that I think women, you know, menopausal women can bring to the world. And in fact, it's not just me that thinks it and you, even though we are both very important. It's the Dalai Lama as well, who actually says, and I think, you know, he's a great guy, and he actually thinks women have a far greater contribution to make than we are currently either allowing ourselves or are allowed to contribute to our society. And that's why, you know, I love running my workshops, because I just think the information about how stress stops you making good decisions, stops you. You see, most courses, everybody leaps into, I've got to lose weight, always in January. I'm going to rush onto a diet. I'm going to just, you know, sort my diet out, sort my exercise. It's in a vacuum. You need to put it in the context of how you manage your life. Everybody's stressed. Either it's, you know, more or less. But you need to understand what the stress is in your life, look at your day, and then you start making, you know, individual changes around, you know, food, nutrition. But actually, you know, if you're stressed, it makes you operate on the stupid parts of your brain. And you can tell from the way the world is at the moment, there's a lot of people operating on the stupid parts of their brains, you know. And when you operate on the stressful part of your brain, it's the reptilian brain, not the intelligent half of your brain. And the intelligent half only comes in to play if you're not using the stress part of the brain. So if you are operating on the stressful part of your brain, if you imagine, you know, that the brain is in two parts, you are biochemically wired. Women are wired to crave fat, starchy carbs, salty things, which is where, because we don't eat breakfast, usually women are, you know, sabotage themselves all the time without realizing. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because we don't eat properly and because there's poor messages around nutrition nowadays, we're wired to make those decisions. And then women feel guilty because they think, oh God, I can't control myself. It's not willpower, it's biochemistry. And again, you're operating on the stupid part of your brain. Whereas if you learn first to calm down, to breathe, to meditate, then you're sending the message to your brain. There is no stress around. You can make intelligent decisions. Then you kick in to the intelligent part of your brain. And then that's the bit that says, no, I won't have 17 biscuits. No, I don't need 4 bits of chocolate because actually I'm doing something else. So there's no point leaping into a diet if you haven't understood, you know, what that element is, because stress also stops you sleeping. If you don't sleep the next day, you are, again, biochemically wired to crave fatty foods. Where do fatty foods go on women after the age of 45? They go on, you know, on your tummy, on your butt, wherever, you know, you don't want it. You could go to the gym every day for 6 hours, you still would get those food cravings. So you need to, you know, there's such little information out. That's why I've curated it from a scientific perspective. I'm not a scientist, I'm just an ordinary woman. But I've found a proper sequence, you know, not the sensational headlines of do this diet or that diet. That's rubbish. Women need to make small, tiny changes for their day, 5 minutes a day, stick with something for 30 days, try something else, you know, and make those small nudges that we know most of us need to make in our lives. And, you know, we are hit with a double, triple, quadruple whammy, which is that as you get older, you need to eat less. As you get older, your metabolism slows down. And the other thing is that you know, as you get older, you know, you can fall very quickly down this sort of hormonal flight of stairs, to quote Dr. Sarah Gottfried. And you know, do we want that? No. So I suppose the challenge for us that we should set to, you know, your tribe, my tribe, is to let's rise above that, and let's take that challenge and actually say, no, we're not going to just dwell on and as I say, get early onset Alzheimer's or dementia because we're eating badly and not taking care of ourselves, because that's actually what's happening. That because of poor food and junk food and too much processed food, there's so much evidence now showing that more women, and again twice as many women, suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia in our, you know, in their 60s and 70s, and that's hormonal. We need to really take this seriously. You know, not just think, oh, well, let's change what we do for 2 weeks in January. Yeah. By January the 23rd, which is what your thing said, you know, hump day. Like, forget it all, right? I've done my resolutions.
Yes, exactly. So, what would you say to somebody who was maybe like they're starting to have these symptoms, starting to feel a bit hotter, starting to notice a change in their libido or their moods, etc., and may have some sort of inkling that it is the perimenopause starting, or them beginning to feel it more. What would you suggest that they do?
The first thing is actually, I mean, it should be go to the doctor, but actually doctors are really ignorant generally.
Right.
So most women go to the doctor and then they're not helped at all. They're often patted on the head or treated really badly and sent off to sort of get on with themselves, really. So it should be the doctor, but I wouldn't recommend that, frankly. The first place to look is the British, if you're in the UK, British Menopause Society. If you're in the States, you know, there's the American Menopause Society, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all the English-speaking, you know, world have menopause societies, and they're very good places to start, because what they will do is they make you feel you're right and to trust your instincts, and they all have questions to ask your GP.
Right.
Women who, it's a vulnerable time, but actually that's when you need your confidence. So you need to know that if you go to a doctor, it could be a man or a woman, but if you get a doctor who's a bit dismissive or wants to whack you on HRT and antidepressants, you know, they're not necessarily the best. That's a blunt instrument. They do that for everything. You know, you might not need antidepressants and HRT. You might just need to get a bit more support and a bit more information, maybe a bit of time off work. You know, 1 in 4 women struggle with the menopause at work because, again, it's like you can't talk about it. So that would be the first place, because now there's been I'm delighted to say there's been a mushrooming of information on these sites. So menopause support, you know, if you Google that, the British Menopause Support, Menopause Matters, Menopause Support, excellent websites, excellent, really excellent, and so helpful. So that when you do go to doctor, which would be number 2, you've got the right info and the right questions. You're feeling good about it, and even if the doctor doesn't help, then you can go back to the website and get, you know, further support. And they have doctors who've been screened for being menopause friendly. You know, they now have some menopause friendly clinics. So, you know, that's where women can go. So you need to do a bit of research, but it's well worth it. Well worth it. You'll feel so much better.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you. I wrote down some questions, so I just want to make sure that I've covered them, because I just think that this is really helpful and fascinating. Okay, what was the biggest thing that you learned on your journey through menopause, or you've learned so far?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was I was shocked by my own ignorance. And actually, you know, I consider myself to be, you know, reasonably well educated. I was fortunate enough to go to university, you know, in the 80s, where there was, no debt. You know, I felt very, I thought I was well informed. I felt shocked at my own ignorance, and shocked, therefore, by the ignorance of others, and horrified, actually. And I suppose that was the biggest thing I learned, because I felt isolated and I felt lonely, and the way I dealt with it was by, you know, trying to use humor and write funny material and get it out there. But I was really, lots of women even didn't want to talk about it to me. Fair enough. I mean, sometimes I've run workshops where I live and I see people and I go, oh, hello, and they scuttle off from me as if I'm going to ask publicly about how their menopause is going. You know, it's quite hilarious, really. So I because of always being an activist in my development work, I suppose that's how I sort of took the bull by the horns and just went for it. I mean, I've had, you know, been in workshops and, you know, met groups of people, including men, who might in a social setting shout across the room to me, how's your menopause going, love? And, you know, you have to shout back and be quite, you know, ready, quite robust. But, you know, it was 2 or 3 years before I felt able to, because, I couldn't believe my ignorance. You know, that's what shocked me. And then I felt it was my fault, because, you know, that's what women do. You think, oh, my God, it's be me. Everybody else knows. It's only me. I missed this radio, or I didn't read something, or I wasn't listening, or I wasn't paying attention. So that's the big thing. And then I suppose at a societal level, you want to think, well, this is about the value placed on women, you know, women of a certain age. And, you know, that boys and girls who are going through secondary school should be as informed about life cycle, not just puberty and reproduction, but the whole life cycle, how to age well, what happens with your body, etc., so that there's no surprises. But I mean, it was quite interesting. I did some research, and there was doctors in the States saying that there's very few doctors who specialize in women's health for women over 40 who are not obstetricians, so past that reproductive phase of life. So there's very little, very little research, very little support. In the UK, the guidance for in the treatment and care of menopause came out at the end of 2016. 2016.
Right. I can believe that.
And it takes.
I can believe that.
10 exactly. It takes usually 10 years for policy level to get down to clinic level. So you can imagine, you know, women are on their own, which is why we've got to, you know, get a grip ourselves, take more responsibility for the lifestyle issues, you know, get off the sugar, stop the junk, you know, you've just got to get a grip. But then make sure we're going to the right sorts of doctors who are a bit ahead of the others, you know.
Yes.
And that's really important. So yeah, long answer, but that's what I've learned.
Yeah, no. So in effect, try and get better informed. And there are places that people can go, like the Menopause Society. In English-speaking countries, there definitely is a Menopause Society that you'll be able to find. It might be called something else if you're from a different part of the world, but also go to your GP and make sure that you do get the right support. Because I think that looking back, I do remember going to my GP and I got an appointment with a female. I didn't specifically ask for a female doctor, but I got an appointment with a female doctor, and she was very young. Let's put it that way. I just felt I felt that she couldn't empathize. She couldn't understand what you know. To be very facetious, I looked at her and I thought, have you even gone through puberty? Not to talk of how are you going to be able to help me and support me through menopause? And at the time, it was just me thinking, oh, I should go and get some information. But if I was suffering quite chronically with it and I didn't feel that I could talk to her, then I'm not sure. I'm sure that there are women out there that may not feel able to say to their doctor that I want somebody who is a bit more experienced, someone who has gone through that, if that practice actually even has anyone, because the older people might all be men, you know. And that's fine if you understand and you're able to give the right advice, support and advice. But I guess we have to work with what we've got for the moment.
Yes,
and
you're right. You're right.
And take responsibility, because I think that there was something very key that you said there about women taking responsibility as well for their health and their well-being, and not expecting the answers to come from outside, because exercise and healthy eating play a very large part in it. Like you said, if you're eating a lot of sugar, if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're going to experience stronger symptoms than if you weren't. And so I think that is a very key point that you've made there. I hope you all enjoyed that video. If you did, then please do like it and share it with your friends, because there must be loads of women out there who would benefit from watching and listening to what Deborah had to say. If you have anything to say, I'd be really interested to hear your comments. If you'd like to see more from Deborah, then let me know that as well. And if you haven't already, then don't forget to subscribe to the New 50 TV here on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.